Hello, this is Michael Paul Williams with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. I'd like to thank Alan Charles Chipman and Initiatives of Change for inviting me to participate in your celebration of International Peace Week. Richmond has long been the site of some of the most consequential turning points in U.S. history. Patrick Henry's Liberty or Death speech at St. John's Church galvanized support for the American Revolution against Great Britain. The fall of Richmond to Union forces, including formerly enslaved black troops, in April 1865 effectively marked the end of slavery in our nation. The 1902 Virginia Constitutional Convention codified and solidified Jim Crow policies that continue to plague us long after the demise of Jim Crow. The Richmond city elections of 1977 marked a new day in modern Richmond, in which black elected officials grabbed the reins of power, part of a wave of black political empowerment nationwide. But I'd argue that one of the most underappreciated, unacknowledged turning points in Richmond and beyond took place in June 1993, when what was known then as Hope in the Cities organized the Unity Walk as part of the international conference, Healing the Heart of America. It was during the Unity Walk that I, a lifelong Richmonder, saw my city with clear eyes and unfettered views for the first time, in all their full-blown contradictions. We started at the site of the aforementioned St. John's Church, where Henry, an enslaver, spoke his famous words about liberty. Across the street sat Bellevue Elementary School, the site of a former mansion owned by Elizabeth Van Lew, another enslaver who became a Union spy and educated and freed Mary Bowser, a black woman who became part of the spy network. The walk took us to Libby Hill, where we could see the full breadth of this history, from Powhatan Hill, site of an indigenous people settlement before the English arrived, to Manchester Docks, where the enslaved were unloaded from ships, to Rocket's Landing, site of an early settlement of freed black people. We traced Abraham Lincoln's walk through Richmond, a celebration of liberation. And then there was our arrival at the Lumpkin Slave Jail, the notorious Devil's Half Acre, and the post-war site of what would become Virginia Union University, my alma mater, as part of a lease arrangement between a northern missionary and Lumpkin's black widow, the formerly enslaved Mary Lumpkin. That day at the Unity Walk, we stood in that shackle bottom parking lot, part of the paved over history of what is hallowed ground, an area that also includes a burial ground for free and enslaved black people. This site is still not properly memorialized, but it's hard to imagine the subsequent archaeological excavation and the current effort to properly memorialize the site without the Unity Walk. Not to mention the commemoration of Native Americans and the formerly enslaved on the state capitol grounds and on Browns Island. Richmond, prior to the walk, was a city defined by its denial of its past, except for aspects of it that it chose to improperly celebrate. It was a city that buried its history under highways and parking lots. It's part of a campaign to submerge its more horrific aspects. It was a city intent on not confessing its sins, much less atoning for them. It was a city that failed to commemorate the two greatest tragedies on U.S. soil: the brutal enslavement of black people and the enslavement, displacement, and genocide of indigenous people, even as it was erecting towering monuments to enslavers and treasonists. It was a city that in my childhood, well into adolescence, used textbooks that taught the lie of the contented slave. We learned precious little real history about the horrors that took place in our city, a city that was one of the largest markets in the buying and selling of human beings in the nation. This odious history was defining and lived on in other forms long after slavery ended, but Richmond, to the greatest extent that it could, covered it up. The Unity Walk and the Healing the Heart of America Conference uncovered this history, exposed it, and framed it within a global context. It placed the heretofore reluctant city in its rightful leadership role in confronting these past wrongs. It argued a new era where citizen activists in Richmond could go about the business of exposing and documenting inequities. It sparked honest conversations about race, poverty, and geographical divides that remain ongoing today, as relevant as ever. It's hard to imagine the Richmond of June 2020 without the Richmond of 1993. For us, the Unity Walk was the beginning of our unfinished business, an essential march toward peace, equity, and justice. Thank you.